All right, I'm over here at my buddy's garage. Here's nice and heated, cause since it's about 20 degrees outside and windy is all. So what I'm planning on doing is I want to add a cutoff switch, much like I added the cutoff switch over here and that Ranger put on the boat initially. I want to put a cutoff switch right in the corner here for my trolling motor. That way I'm not using my breaker down below here. I don't know if you can see that. Yeah. That way that's not used as my cutoff switch because it's not meant to be switched at like a switch. It basically doesn't have the number of cycles you normally would use to cut things on and off. So while I'm in here, I've already got everything covered up on the battery. So what I have to do right now, I don't know if you can see it, but there's a lot of water on the battery, and that's from driving over here while it was a little bit of a snowstorm. So I've got to let that all dry out before I touch any of this electrical stuff. All right, let's get started on this. First thing I'm going to do is cut this breaker off. Let me get down here so I can get to it. All right, so I'm just going to push this breaker in. Okay, so that little lever out says breaker's cut. So that cuts the power off in the whole circuit. But what I want to do now is I'm going to take and disconnect the ground off this battery, which is this wire right here. I'm going to disconnect that. And then once I've done that, then I have the basically the circuit disconnected. So I feel like it'll be safe to work on. Okay, so let's do that. And that nut's free. So now we'll just finish undoing it. And normally I would take a zip tie and put between these cables, but I know that I really only have 2 cables here. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to rebolt them back together like that. Okay, that'll save me from finding a little zip tie handy. But that will disconnect this battery. Now I have this first battery, which, excuse me, get it out of the way there. So this first battery is now isolated. So now we're good to go. But the other thing I want to talk about is that this breaker here, this is a really good time now that you have it disconnected to look at this breaker, make sure it looks good, make sure it functions properly. So push that back in, push it, make sure it clicks out like that. So that's showing you that the breaker is working. It disconnects properly. But the one thing I've seen, for example, in Rangers, that most Rangers will have that black box here, especially the older ones. And I've seen a couple failures on those. One failure is where the switch on top, and what I'm going to do is I'll insert a picture of that. But that breaker inside, sometimes the switch fails, and it doesn't either hold or doesn't even move, sticks. And so you'll have to replace it. But I've also seen a situation, especially on an intercoastal boat, that partly, spends part of its time in the salt water. What it did is it corroded the terminals completely. So as soon as I took this breaker out to basically put the proper breaker in, because originally Ranger would put 50 amp breakers in here. An Ultrix 112 takes 60 amp breaker. So what you want to do is make sure you check your trolling motor to make sure it's correct. So, but anyway, so on that intercoastal, it actually had corroded the leads. And if you look in the picture there, you can see where they're just completely gone. And what that'll show up, if you don't check that regularly, you'll occasionally see something, maybe your trolling motor works today and maybe it's flaky off and on. So always check that. So that's another good thing to do. So at this point, I'm going to disconnect the power lead off of this battery, get this cable out of here right now. So this lead, again, only has 2 wires to it. It has the wire coming from the breaker, which is this wire here, okay, that we're going to relocate because we're putting the switch in. And then it has the charging wire. So I'm going to take and put this back on the charger wire. That way I know where this bolt is and I know where everything is. The Battleborns come with this copper washer, or brass washer. So make sure you got that in place as well. So, all right, so now we're ready to start actually doing some work here. So now this battery is fully disconnected. Okay. And I just have this habit of when I'm going in and working on stuff, I clean stuff up as I go. So the next thing I want to do is I'm going to look and see, do I need to replace this cable? So that's that. So now this battery is fully disconnected. What I'm going to do next is I'm going to mount this corner switch here for you, and then I will go from there. Then we can get some cable links and see what's going on. Let's look at the parts we're using. This is just a simple battery switch. Okay, I'll leave a link in the description for you. So this battery switch itself, if you look on the bottom, it uses a this size post, which is let's see, it's a 3/8 post. So what you want to do is when you pull that one wire off the battery, make sure this is the one that goes to the breaker. Make sure that's a 3/8 and it will fit onto this. Let's see if I can get it so you can see it. 6-gauge wire is not really flexible, so that'll fit fine. So we don't have to do anything to this wire. Even though it's a little longer than I normally prefer, we really don't have to do a whole lot to it, okay? So that's ready to go. But what I do want to do is I want to put some heat shrink on this. Even though this has got this protective cover on it, on the wire itself, it doesn't have anything protecting it right here. So I'm going to put a little bit of heat shrink right on this section here, and then we'll just tidy that up. The other thing, crap, you'll notice that this piece came off the cover. What I'm going to do is make sure you always cover your positive terminals, okay? If you do not have those on your batteries, I suggest you covering them all up, at least minimally the positive terminals. This is what I normally would use. These are nice flexible silicone, and I'll leave an affiliate link in the description for you. And basically, I'm gonna replace the one that was there with this type. It gives me a little bit better coverage, a little bit smaller as well, and also tends to stay on better. What I've seen with this type here, let me grab it. This type tends to flop around a little bit because it's pretty big, even though there's a little clamp down here to hold on the cables. Problem is, most of the times you got a lot more cable than one cable coming through. So I'm going to put this on there. It'll hold it down better. It's also, you can see it's markedly smaller, but it still gives you the coverage, because really we only have to cover over that one nut. So, all right. So I'll save these around just in case I need them, but I actually really prefer to do this. I buy them in, a bulk box here. Again, I'll leave an affiliate link in there. This is what they are, if you can see them down here. So this is black for boat cars. They're basically, you get the red and the black in here. So you get 6 of each. And the nice thing is, if you buy this one box full, it'll cover your whole boat pretty much. If you have a 36-volt trolling motor, you have an electronics battery, and you have a starting battery, that gives you 10. That gives you 1 spare just in case you goofed up something. Okay, so just something you want to do. It's also part of the NEMA code as far as boat safety goes. So make sure that's done. I've seen too many boats going out without any covers on any of the terminals. So the next thing I'm going to use, I'm going to use this Rocket City bracket. Probably a little easier to see. This is one that's not black coated. This one's black coated. When I put the one on the boat before, they didn't offer the black coating, so I'm going to use this black coating one just to make it blend in a little bit better with my boat. They also added slots on the new ones. The old ones didn't have slots, so I guess that's nice to make it easier to fit. And that way, if your hole's off a little bit, everything still fits. So this will be used in the corner. This is a universal one. It fits both this style battery switch, which is the generic Chinese one, okay, and it'll also fit the Blue Seas one, which is more the traditional standard one. The difference is this is probably about 1/3 the price, and I've seen it works just as well. Although the contacts sometimes don't feel as solid as the Blue Seas, I've never had one fail. So that's the other part. The other thing I've got to do now, because I am adding the switch in here, I also need another battery line, okay? So I'm going to do two things. One, I'm going to use this one I bought, which you have to make sure you have the ends correct. Okay. So what I've got is on these bolts. Hopefully I did it right. Supposedly the bolts that comes with them is a 3/8 on one end, and it's a 5/16 on the other. Okay, so we know the 3/8 goes to the switch itself. 5/16 definitely doesn't fit this. So what I got to do is make sure it fits on that bolt. If it doesn't fit on that bolt, then what I'm going to do is I will make up my own power. So let's get going on this thing. So let me get this bracket mounted in the corner, and then we'll go from there. Because the way this glass is, it's not perfectly perpendicular to everything. If I mount this one up tight, you can see the gap right here, okay? So what I want to do is I want to get out and bend these on a, you can use if you have a vise, it's better, but protect the jaws so it doesn't scratch this thing. So you can see I basically just have to bend it just a tad just to tweak it out, make it fit better. I mean, if you do it under that way, yeah, it works, but the problem is it makes it hard to drill because there's no drill pattern. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take and tweak this, and then we'll come back and start drilling. All right, I'm going to drill this first hole here. I'm going to use, okay, there we go. All right. What I use is a centering bit. Sorry about the fan in the background. It's a little chilly in here, so I turned the heat up. So I just used a centering bit to put the hole right in the middle of this hole, pre-drilled hole. And then what I did is I put my finger under here, tried to line this edge up here with the bottom of this, just so I've got some reference point. Now that I got that centering bit done, we'll go back and I'll use my other drill and finish drilling the hole out. All right, so that's done. What I'm using is number 10s. So these are the screws I'm going to be using to go through the hole there, and I just want to do a check fit. And it's a little tight, so I got to go up one drill size. So let me get the drills here, drill bits. So that was a 5/32. I'm going to go to 11/64 and see if I got it clearance. You basically don't want that hole tight for the screw to go in. You want it kind of wiggly. Okay. All right, so I'm gonna check the fit again. Yep, so that's good. So I'm not done with that hole yet. What I want to use, I want to use these Irwin brand, basically they're countersink bits, okay? And you see me in other videos, I've used these before. What I do is I put a little taper on this hole to keep it from the gel coat from cracking. So I'll try to find these on Amazon, put an Amazon link in the description for you for this tool. Okay. I'm using the one for 3/8. Just drill it slow. You don't have to do a whole lot, but you see how I tapered that back a little bit? That will help keep the gel coat from cracking, okay? So what I'm gonna do right now is I'm gonna do the other 3 holes here, and then I'll get this thing screwed in and we'll get ready to start installing everything. With this switch, the first thing I wanna do is figure out the orientation. What I'm gonna do is match up with my other one. So that means that in the off position, it's gonna sit pretty much like that. So that's the O for off, 1 is for on. So when it's turned on, it'll be switched on that way. And that'll be consistent with the other switches, okay? So what I want to do is that, since I know that that's the orientation, I would like this cable here, the new one, which is going to go to the battery. I'd like that to come out the back and then down to the battery itself. And I like the other one that was inside the boat already. I'd like that to come out the side here. On these switches, there's a little panel you pull out. Pull it out, and the line that is going to connect to this location here, if you look at it, if we rotate back, because I want the new cable to come out this, so that's going to connect to this piece here. So I'd like that to come out as at a 90-degree angle, and so that would put the other one like that. So let me go ahead and pull this other piece out. There we go. So, all right, so now the switch is ready to go. So now we're going to put this guy on this one here. This takes a 17mm socket. So there's also a lock nut here to keep it fairly tight. All right, so take the lock nut off. Again, this is a 3/8 connector. So, like I say, Ranger puts a 3/8 in, so I don't. That's why I don't have to do anything to it. So that's the first one I've got. I also put them. Doesn't really matter whether you have it flip it up or flip it down, because it really doesn't matter. It just makes more sense to come up with that flat. Gives you more contact area here. Okay, so let me tighten this down. There you go. So you want it secure. Just don't completely manhandle it. So that's one of them. Let me take the other nut off. The other cable, as you pull it out, make sure you don't have any kinks and twists in it. It's never a good idea to have a kink or twist in your cables if you can help it. So, all right, so let me reach down here and grab this one. You'll notice I also put a piece of heat shrink on there. That's to help cover it up a little bit. So this one is going to be coming out of this box in this direction here, okay? So that when I push everything back in, this cable will go to the side of the battery there, okay? So I want it to go this route, okay? So put this battery, or this onto the piece right here. And I got a little extra shrink wrap on there. Normally I would cut that off, but right now I don't have a tool, but it gives you more contact area. I'm going to have pretty good contact as it is, but again, since you're dealing with power, you really want to have as much contacts as possible. So let me tighten this guy down. What I'm trying to do is keep this pretty much straight line coming out of there, so I don't have any pressure on it or any kinks or anything like that. So that's tight. So this is almost ready to go. What I mean by almost, I'm going to put a little dielectric compound or dielectric grease, the CRC stuff. I'll put a link to this in the description as well. So I'm just going to put a little bit of this on here just to cover it up, just to prevent any potential corrosion. All I'm doing is just trying to cover up the nut and the contacts and things like that. Or not the contacts, but just really the terminals here. So, whoops. One disadvantage of this tube is if you barely push it, sometimes you get a boatload of dielectric compound out. So, okay. So this is ready to go and get installed. I noticed that this has place for your captive nuts in the bottom of this. I'm not a big fan of using that. What I do is I put the cover on, and then I'll run the nuts up against that with washers on them. So let's go ahead and we can start to get this installed. So now, when it goes in the boat, okay, it's going to go this direction here. All right, so let me get it in there. So let me go ahead, I'll get it installed in here. What you want to do, because this is slanted, not a flat surface, as you tighten this down, okay, don't tighten the first one all the way, tighten them all in sequence. Otherwise, you're going to get it rocking in there, okay? So let me go ahead and get this installed in the boat, and I'll come right back. Okay. I got the switch installed now. You can see it down there. So we're in the off position. Turn that to on, okay? So what I got to do next is I've got to connect this new wire here to the battery terminal. Make sure I put the charger plug on that. And then I've got to take and redo that ground wire. So let me go ahead. I'll get those two connected. And then I'm still not going to flip the breaker yet, because that was the first thing we did. We're going to do that last. So we'll do that, and then I can check everything. All right. So at this point, we're all ready. I've got the battery terminals on. That's a positive. That's a negative over there. Put a cover on that. Unfortunately, with the way the charger was, I had to run the charger cable direct the other direction. I also close that breaker back. See the tab's not there. So now, last thing to do is turn this on and go check the trolling motor, make sure it works. So I'll switch it on, and we'll run up to the front deck here. Well, walk up to the front deck, and then we'll check it out. We're up here at the trolling motor. So I'm just going to power it on, and it's coming up. And I don't know if you could hear the beeps. There's a trolling motor all powered up with the new switch on it. That way I can easily just cut it on and off. Once I cut the electronics in the main boat, I can cut everything off. So let's just turn it back off, and we'll go back here. Okay, so now that we're all checked and tested, we can turn this off. So now that gives me an easy way to turn off. I'm not using the breaker to turn off because the breakers are not meant to be open and closed like a switch is. The switch has the duty cycle for what you need. So we're going to run that. So now we're balanced. I've got that set up. The only thing left I want to do is I'm going to put labels like I've got over here on this side, so on and off. But again, the nice thing is you can pretty well see this is red here, this is green. Again, you want to have red, which is the 0 facing towards the bow. All right, so this is a nice quick project. Well, if you're not klutzy like me, but it's a relatively quick project to do, and gives you something over the winter time to do, or whenever you want to. All right, thanks for watching.